You've seen the movies. You've read the myths. You've heard the prophecy. One will come, unlike any other. A child of destiny. A soul born to save the world. And in every story, the chosen one is always the same, glowing with otherworldly power, standing above the crowd, effortlessly unlocking divine gifts while the rest of us watch from below. But what if I told you that's not how it really works? What if I told you that the real chosen one doesn't shine from the outside? What if the true chosen ones are hiding in plain sight, and one of them might be you? We've been conditioned to believe that power is loud, that greatness is obvious, that the chosen one is the strongest, the smartest, the most talented, the most enlightened. But the real chosen one, they are not always the loudest in the room. They're not the one with the most followers or the most polished spiritual brand. In fact, the real chosen one often doubts their own power more than anyone. They question everything. They suffer deeply. They are the ones who walk through the fire again and again, not because they want to, but because life keeps calling them into the flame. And every time they rise a little less attached to who they thought they were, a little more aligned with what they really are. You see, being chosen doesn't mean you are gifted a golden destiny. It means you are forged by pain, refined by pressure, tested in silence. The chosen ones are not chosen because they are perfect. They are chosen because they choose to keep going when it would be easier to quit. They choose truth over comfort. They choose presence over escape. They choose to feel everything, even when it breaks them open. That's the real initiation. Not a lightning bolt from the sky, not a robe and a staff, but the moment you realize that your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. That everything you thought disqualified you from greatness was actually what qualified you all along. But let's be honest, this world doesn't exactly make it easy to remember that. From the moment we're born, we are told who we should be. Our light is dimmed. Our sensitivity is pathologized. Our gifts are misunderstood. And so the real chosen ones don't grow up feeling like heroes. They grow up feeling different, misunderstood, isolated, like aliens in their own bodies. And yet somewhere deep inside they carry a knowing, a whisper, a pull. Something ancient in their bones that says, you are here for more. And no matter how far they fall, how many masks they wear, how many times they collapse, they cannot forget that whisper. It haunts them. It calls them. It refuses to leave them alone. So maybe you felt it. That strange sense that this world is not quite what it seems. That you're here to do something, but you don't know what. That you're meant to wake up, but you can't find the alarm clock. That's not your imagination. That's your soul trying to break through the noise. That's your memory trying to return. Because the real chosen one doesn't appear when the world is ready, they appear when the world is falling apart. And what do we see all around us now? Systems collapsing, truth being buried, voices being silenced, and yet more and more of us are feeling the call. That's not a coincidence. That's the prophecy unfolding in real time. That's the chosen ones activating, not from a throne but from the shadows. Let me ask you something that may crack your identity wide open. What if the very thing you thought disqualified you from your purpose is the exact thing that proves you're the one? Because here's the twist no one tells you. The chosen one doesn't look like the chosen one. They don't fit the mold because they came to break it. They don't follow the rules because they came to rewrite them. They don't blend in because they were never meant to. And yet, because they don't feel like the chosen one, they often abandon their path before it even begins. They wait for a sign, a teacher, a miracle. But what if the sign is already here? What if the miracle is the fact that you're standing after everything you've survived? What if the teacher is your own life? We've been lied to. We've been told that healing comes from gurus, that enlightenment is a destination, that power is given. But the truth is, power is remembered. And the chosen one is the one who remembers. Who remembers who they were before the world told them who to be? Who remembers the ancient codes buried in their DNA? Who remembers what it means to serve something greater than themselves, not out of ego, but out of devotion? That's the real chosen one. Not the one who wants to be seen, but the one who sees. Not the one who wants control, but the one who surrenders. Not the one who wants fame, but the one who wants truth, no matter the cost. So maybe it's time to stop waiting for the chosen one to show up and start asking yourself, what if it's me? Not the version of you that's polished and perfect. The version of you that's messy and raw and human. The one who cries alone at night and still gets up in the morning. The one who doubts and aches and breaks but keeps loving anyway. That's the one the world needs. That's the one the prophecy was always about.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
There's a reason why the ones who are meant to awaken first are often the ones who break first. Why the real chosen ones carry the heaviest burdens, feel the deepest wounds, and walk through the hardest fires. It's not a punishment. It's not bad luck. It's a spiritual law. Before a soul can carry light, it must know shadow. Before a soul can lead others through the storm, it must first survive its own. And that survival isn't glamorous. It's not clean. It's not something you post on social media. It's the kind of survival that happens at 3 a.m. when you're curled in a ball, staring into the void, asking the universe why it put you here at all. Because being chosen doesn't mean being spared. It means being refined, like gold in the furnace, like diamonds under pressure. And before your gifts activate, your illusions must collapse. Your ego must crack. Your attachments must be ripped from your grip, not because you're being punished, but because your soul asked for truth. And truth doesn't come cheap. You said you wanted to awaken? Then everything that isn't real must burn. That's the price. And that's why so many of the chosen ones suffer early, deeply, and silently. Because their awakening is not about becoming something else. It's about unbecoming everything they were never meant to be. You may have noticed this already. The strange pattern. The way chaos seems to find you. The relationships that fall apart without warning. The dreams that crumble just when they seemed within reach. The betrayals. The isolation. The long winters of the soul when nothing grows and the silence is unbearable. But here's the secret no one tells you. Those moments are initiations, not endings. Not failures, initiations. They are the sacred tests that strip away who you think you are so that who you truly are can emerge. And the reason it hurts so much is because we've been taught to cling to masks. We've been taught to believe that safety lies in certainty. But the chosen ones, they are called to live on the edge of the unknown, to trust what cannot be seen, to walk through doors that weren't even there yesterday. Let me ask you something that might reframe your entire life. What if every breakdown you've ever had was not a detour, but a doorway? Because that's where the real initiation happens, not in the temples, not in the retreats, but in the raw, wild chaos of your actual life. When you get rejected and your heart breaks open. When your bank account hits zero and you're forced to discover a new kind of wealth. When the people you thought would stay forever leave, and you finally realize that your worth was never dependent on their love. These are not just tragedies. They are codes. Hidden in every loss is a lesson. Hidden in every collapse is a calling. And the chosen ones are the ones who eventually stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to make of me? And what it's trying to make of you is sovereign. Not perfect. Not invincible. But sovereign. Someone who no longer needs external validation to know their worth. Someone who has stared into the abyss and found their own light. Someone who no longer fears the darkness because they are the darkness, the sacred, creative, divine darkness that births new worlds. That's the paradox. The chosen one is not here to escape the pain. They're here to alchemize it. So yes, the suffering comes first, the confusion, the loss, the stripping away. But it's not forever. It's only the beginning. The womb before the rebirth, the silence before the song. And when you come out the other side, you will not be who you were. You will not need what you used to crave. You will not beg for what you used to chase, because you will have remembered the one thing no one could ever take from you, your essence. And that is what makes you a true chosen one, not your talent, not your knowledge, not your image, but your ability to feel deeply, to suffer honestly, and to rise anyway, again and again, until your rising becomes a revolution, until others look at you, not because you're perfect, but because your scars remind them that healing is possible. The world has always mocked what it does not understand. It's a defense mechanism, a way to feel safe in the face of something that threatens the illusion of control. And that's why the real chosen ones are almost always ridiculed before they are revered. They are dismissed, doubted, misunderstood, not because they're wrong, but because they're early. They see what others have not yet been willing to see. They carry frequency that disrupts the collective sleep. And when you're awake in a world that is still dreaming, your presence alone becomes a threat. Think about it. The prophets were laughed at. The mystics were exiled. The revolutionaries were silenced. Not because they lacked truth, but because their truth shattered the comfort of the masses. And in our time, it's no different. The chosen ones don't get standing ovations. They get strange looks. They get labeled as too intense, too emotional, too much. They speak from the gut when everyone else wants a script. They act from intuition when the crowd demands logic. And so the world mocks them, not because the chosen are weak, but because they reflect the strength others have forgotten in themselves. This is the sacred mockery. It's not a flaw in the system, it is the system. A test, a mirror, a fire. Because if you are truly chosen, then you must be able to hold your truth even when no one claps for it. You must be able to keep walking even when the path is invisible. And when they laugh, you must learn to listen deeper, because behind every laugh is fear. Behind every eye roll is resistance. And behind every rejection is a hidden invitation to stand taller, speak clearer, burn brighter. But here's the hardest part. Sometimes the loudest mockery comes from within. Your own mind, your own doubt. That voice that says, "Who am I to think I'm chosen? Who am I to carry something sacred?" And the answer is simple. You're not. Not the you you've been taught to be. Not the you who tries to please everyone. Not the you who fits into boxes and follows the rules. That version of you is not chosen, it's conditioned. But the real you, the wild, raw, honest, unfiltered you. The part of you that's been whispering for years in your dreams, your art, your silence. That you has always been chosen. The problem is, we're taught to kill that version of ourselves before we even know its name. We're taught to trade soul for survival, to trade authenticity for acceptance. So when someone rises and refuses to play that game, it makes people uncomfortable. It reminds them of the parts they buried, the songs they never sang, the truths they never lived. And so they laugh, they roll their eyes, they change the subject. But inside, whether they admit it or not, they feel something. They remember something. Because real truth doesn't ask for approval, it activates remembrance. So if you're being mocked, doubted, or misunderstood, don't take it as a sign you're failing. Take it as a sign you're early. You're ahead of the curve. You're living a frequency that hasn't been normalized yet. And yes, that's lonely. That's hard. But it's also sacred. Because one day the same people who laughed will come to you for guidance. The same ones who rejected your fire will seek its warmth. And you won't need to say, "I told you so." You'll just look at them with soft eyes and say, "I see you. I've always seen you." Let me ask you something that will echo in your heart for weeks. Would you still speak your truth if no one ever validated it? Would you still walk your path if no one ever joined you? Would you still rise if everyone around you stayed asleep? That's the real test. Because the chosen one doesn't walk to be followed, they walk to honor the call. Even when it breaks them. Even when it scares them. Even when it costs them everything they thought they needed. Because the call is louder than the mockery. The mission is stronger than the fear. And the soul knows what the mind is still trying to understand. This life is not about being liked, it's about being real. So let them laugh, let them doubt, Let them misunderstand, because the day will come when the world finally catches up to what your soul already knew. And in that moment, you won't need applause. You'll just keep walking, because your path was never about proving anything. It was about becoming everything you were born to be. We've spent our lives searching for the chosen one as if they are a single person, anointed by the stars, walking among us like some divine outlier. But here's the final revelation, the truth that unravels every myth you were ever told. The chosen one is not a person. The chosen one is a state of consciousness, and that changes everything. Because if it's a state of being, not a birthright, then it's available to anyone, including you, especially you. It means being chosen is not about being superior, but about choosing moment to moment to live in alignment with something far greater than personal success. It's a daily decision to serve truth instead of fear, to follow intuition instead of validation, to move from soul instead of ego. And the more you choose it, the more that state begins to choose you back. It's as if the universe starts to respond differently. Doors open. Synchronicities flood in. Not because you've earned it, but because you've become it. The chosen one is not the loudest voice, the biggest platform, or the most perfect life. The chosen one is the one who can stand in the middle of chaos and still choose peace. The one who can feel everything falling apart and still choose love. The one who, even in their darkest hour, refuses to betray their soul. That is power. That is mastery. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear lead. Not the lack of doubt, but the decision to keep going anyway. Not being above the world, but deeply rooted in it, while still remembering where you came from. We've been taught to wait for someone to save us, to look to leaders, influencers, prophets, politicians. But what if the whole time, the one we were waiting for was the version of ourselves we haven't yet stepped into? What if, instead of being chosen by the universe, we were meant to choose ourselves? Not in arrogance, but in sacred responsibility. Because here's what no one tells you. There is no final choosing moment. There is no grand announcement. There's just you and the next breath and the next choice. And every choice is a portal. Every choice is a vote for the future you're willing to create. You become the chosen one when you finally stop waiting and start embodying. When you stop asking, "Am I worthy?" and start declaring, "I will live as if I am." When you stop trying to be saved and start becoming the kind of presence that saves others just by existing fully. And the most radical thing, you don't need to be perfect to begin. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to say yes to the whispers, to the nudges, to the path that doesn't make sense on paper but feels like home in your bones. So let me ask you now, maybe for the last time, what are you waiting for? You've suffered enough. You've questioned enough. You've been broken open and stitched yourself back together more times than you can count. You've seen behind the curtain. You've tasted truth. You've carried light even when it scorched your hands. You know. You've always known. And now the question is not whether you're chosen. The question is whether you'll finally live like it. Because the real chosen one isn't here to be admired. They're here to activate. To walk into the room and remind others of what they forgot. To speak in ways that awaken DNA. To love in ways that shatter timelines. To choose again and again to stand in the fire of transformation until the fire becomes them. So no, the chosen one is not a single person. It's a frequency, a flame, a way of being that anyone can embody if they're willing to burn for what's real. And when enough of us choose that path, when enough of us stop waiting and start becoming, the prophecy is fulfilled. Not by one, but by many, by the ones who remembered. And if you're still listening, still here, still breathing through this moment with your heart cracked wide open, then maybe, just maybe, you already know you are it. Now go live like you never forgot.